Now you do have it. It's working this time, right? The audio is good.
No, see, I just started recording, and look, everybody, it's comedian Ryan Niemiller, a former Indiana State University Sycamore, a Hoosier. He's funny and he's a comedian. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, this is not to get too how the sausage is made, but this is round two for us attempting this. So
Yes, it is, and I will say though, I did very good the first time around because I was the only one that could be heard.
yeah, I was gonna say, you were like, I'm bringing most of the interesting for this one, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut him out, and then we'll just fill in the blanks later.
Yeah, I posted it, and probably about maybe a minute in, people were sending me messages. Look, I can't hear him. I can't hear him. And most of the people are like, I hear you fine. I hear you fine, but I need to hear him. Hey Ryan, if we all know that you love wrestling and you want to be a professional wrestler, what would be
Yes.
your what? Do you have like five songs you would have used for your intro music into the ring?
Oh, I never got that far in. Um, but for me, like, and I do this with anything artistic now. I'm fortunate enough to know enough cool people that do a lot of different things that I probably would have had a couple of my friends like make something for me and try to do that. Like, I mean, that's it's so hard to get any kind of break in any kind of these businesses. I never thought of. I'm so bad. The type of music I like is not conducive to pro wrestling. Like I'm bummed out that Corona has canceled a Matchbox 20 concert. If that tells you where I'm at as a music fan, so I don't know if that's exactly the intimidating song that people are looking for.
And we're using Skype. Does anybody really use Skype anymore? Are the millennials doing Zoom, or the old folks doing Zoom? You know what I'm saying?
I'll be honest. Other than this interview, I've mostly ever used Skype to do like fantasy football drafts, things like that. It's something that people who aren't tech savvy, like myself, usually use because every computer has Skype on it, so you can kind of start from there.
Now, I just want to let everybody know that I'm a little bit in the dark because our AC went out 2 weeks ago. We had to wait 2 weeks before the American Home Show warranty kicked in. And they're going to put a new one on the roof tomorrow. So if you see beads of sweat rolling down me, hey, just enjoy it and make fun of me.
Yeah, I assume you were just really nervous to talk to me a second time, and it's getting you a little woo.
You know what? It is. But you know what? I'm coming off of an interview with Wang Chung. So, I was prepared for you.
Okay, okay. I'm often called the Wang Chung of comedy, so that's you just have a nice little thread going here. You got a gimmick now for this show.
So tell us a little bit about what the coronavirus has done to comedy.
Oh, it is, and I want to go ahead and start what I'm about to say with the no. I want everyone to understand that I know there are way more serious implications out there about this disease than I don't get to work for a while. I understand a lot of this is going to be first world problems kind of thing, but right now it's so tricky. I haven't done any shows in front of a crowd since March. So obviously it's affecting that on a literal just we can't gather to watch comedy shows right now. Where it also gets tricky is that every state does things so differently that it's hard telling when everything's going to open up because there's some states that are already running comedy shows. So some get to do it at 25 percent capacity, some 50. There's a couple places I guess that are running at full capacity. That's a rarity. Some states get to open because comedy clubs have been determined are like restaurants. Some states can't open because they've determined comedy clubs run like bars. So right now it's this whole. Some have got lucky. I've had friends that have already done 3 or 4 weekends. I've had 4 weekends where I was supposed to be the first person back get canceled because the state or the city decided, hey, we're not ready. Let's push it back. Which was the right call. Like, obviously, I want to be safe. I want everyone else to be safe. But you also have to work. And that's, I think, the frustrating part of this is whether I agree if we should be opening or not is irrelevant because no one's going to pay my bills. And that's the unfortunate state of it. That's why I'm getting so frustrated anytime anyone's like, Well, if you're scared, just stay home and let us go out. Okay, are you going to pay my bills? Are you gonna, are you gonna let me? No, we're not giving you a free ride. Well, then shut up. I don't have the option to stay home, do I? So it's one of those kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because comfortability wise, I'd probably rather stay home for another month or so, just so everything can get back under control. You don't have those options. The other weird thing that's done to comedy, and this is something I'm glad is happening, it's also giving a lot of people's problematic pasts are coming up, and there's certain things. I don't agree in cancel culture when it comes to like a joke that someone told 15 years ago. That probably doesn't deserve to have someone be canceled. However, if you're sending a lot of inappropriate messages to people and sexually harassing people, yeah, let's bring that to light. So it's also given a lot of people time to see things like that and figure it out. It's a very weird time for entertainment as a whole, not just comedy, because none of it can happen, and online is just not the same for shows.
It's interesting you say that because last night it was very uncomfortable watching AGT. Did you tune in last night?
I watched a few of the individual clips because there was a couple comics on, and I watched that. It's definitely a sign of just what's going on, because those were taped in March, so you actually got to see the progression of everything started out normal, and there's these packed houses, and then Heidi got sick, and so she was just gone because at that time didn't know. I don't think she had corona. I think she just got sick. But at the time, everyone was freaking out. And you don't know what it is, so then she's temporarily replaced, and then they go from having an audience with no Heidi to now there's no audience. And I mean, kudos to anyone who had to do their audition that way. Having done the experience the year before, especially as a comedian, I can't imagine how difficult that has to be for like it's nerve-wracking anyway because it's the biggest opportunity of your career, and then factor that, oh, you don't have the audience on your side to like build that energy up. So kudos to anyone who did that, because that was it's weird. It's definitely a little uncomfortable and a little eerie.
I was watching a comedian last night on the show, and it just looks so difficult to perform for three people.
Oh, yeah. Well, welcome to the first 10 years of my career. Doing that, see, it would have been great for me. I would have been just right. That's my wheelhouse right there. Yeah, but I thought, like, because there was the two comics on last night. Michael Yo, I think, killed it. I think he's a seasoned pro and he's a great dude. And then Crystal, who is from Texas, like for hers, like she still was very funny and did well. But you could tell with hers just how that energy was, because she does a lot of act outs. She was doing stuff like it's hard to be that energetic and do those things for four people. If you have 4,000 in there, you can play with that energy. You can do stuff. So kudos to both of them for powering through. But yeah, it definitely is weird.
Tell everybody a little bit about where you're from in Indiana. Give them kind of an idea of where you were born and raised.
Sure. So technically, I was born down in Bedford, Indiana, so kind of in that area, but I wasn't there long enough to ever claim it. I think we moved when I was like 1, if that. My dad got some jobs up at the steel mills in Chicago, up in that area. So I grew up in DeMott, Indiana, a little small town in the region. It's about as big as it sounds for anyone who hasn't been there before. Very tiny town. Give you some perspective, we threw a town celebration when we got our first stoplight, if that gives you an idea of who we are. But yeah, I'm an old trailer park kid, so I grew up in a trailer, 6 of us packed in a single wide, and it was very, especially with what I've done now, it was a very interesting upbringing to come from that to what I'm doing at this moment.
I've heard the phrase. My mom used to tell me this when I was a kid. And I like both. I like both of them. I didn't understand, but she would tell me when I'd get notes from the teachers, they're not laughing with you. They're not laughing with you. They're laughing at you. I mean, to a comedian or someone who's trying to be funny, aren't both of those the same?
They both are very effective depending on what you're going for. That's all it is. If you're getting laughs and that's all you care about, then yeah. it never bothered me. I mean, I have a pretty obvious disability. So for me, my skill set involved being able to turn people who might have laughed at me to laugh with me. I was so much better at making the jokes that I never got really bullied. Um, because like no one could keep up with what I was doing to myself, let alone anyone else. So yeah, but for me, like whatever, a laugh's a laugh, and even if you kind of embarrass yourself a little bit sometimes, whatever, it's how you kind of then work with that and change it. So I think a healthy combination of both can be very effective.
What were some of your favorite wrestlers growing up?
Favorite wrestlers? I was always a fan of kind of the underdogs and the less appreciated guys. I've always been slightly contrarian that way, and I don't know, just with everything. I was probably the only kid who grew up near Chicago in the 90s who didn't like the Chicago Bulls. Like, to give you an idea. Because for me, like, clearly they're probably the greatest team of all time, but, like, it wasn't fun, in my eyes, to be a Bulls fan because, like, you pretty much knew they were going to win. So where's, like, the excitement? I get if you're, like, a long time and had seen them fail for 2 decades, then you're excited to finally see it. But, like, who jumps in and is a Yankees fan right away? I never found the fun of that. And even with wrestling, like even some of the top guys, like I never really got into Hulk Hogan that much. I was always a fan of guys like Coco Beware, and then like getting into like the '90s, like Tatanka, and just like kind of like some of the more offshoot guys. And even that's how I grew to be such a huge fan of Chris Jericho, because he started as one of those guys. He wasn't who he is now at that time. He was kind of like a lesser known, scrappy, up and coming guy who was kind of being overlooked and held down. And I've always appreciated those stories a lot more. It's why I'm a Cubs fan.
so you weren't a Bulls fan, but wait. So I like to play a game with some people. You can go back and forth, naming
Sure.
wrestlers or players on a baseball team. When someone came to me the other day and said, "How many wrestlers can you name?" I mean, I started going, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Ricky the Steamboat Dragon, Jake the Snake Roberts, and people are going, those were wrestlers? I'm like, oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the Honky Tonk Man. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I could do thousands. Like, to give you an idea of what my wrestling fandom has looked like, to this day, for lack of a better phrase, I still write my own pro wrestling fan fiction. And that is 100% true. There's an old game. It was a wrestling simulator, and it was text-based. It was called TNM. It was made by a really good friend of mine. He actually just released some new stuff for it. It's a little cheap plug, tnmte.com, if you're a wrestling nerd like me. But basically, it lets you make your own wrestling promotion and, like, run your own matches and run everything. And I always loved, like, the creative side of something. It's clearly niche, and it's clearly super nerdy. But, like, for me, it was my version of being the weird kid who liked D&D, who wanted to live in this kind of other fantasy world. For me, instead of it being, that kind of fantasy, it was, oh, I'm Vince McMahon, and I'm going to run this and come up with these stories and do that. So, yeah, I mean, I think I don't trust anyone who doesn't have something like that they enjoy for no other reason than it just makes you happy. Well, like for me, that's never going to pay the bills. That's not helping me buy a house. That's not getting me bigger in comedy. Like I'm not going to get discovered and win an Oscar because someone read my nerdy wrestling stuff. But it just makes me happy. And I think everyone should have something like that.
So up and around the Chicago area, were you a Bears fan, or I think you're a Dolphins fan now? How did that transpire?
Oh gosh, I have so many. My sports fandom's weird. So the only team that I actually picked up from growing up that way was the Cubs. So I'm still a Chicago Cubs fan, and the big selling point for them, like now obviously in 2016 this changed finally, but they're perennial losers. They were the perennial underdogs. They're the team that like you want to see get over the hump, but they just never could. whether it was bad luck or stumbling over their own damn feet or whatever it is. Um, I'm a Cubs fan for that reason. I'm a Dolphins fan because as a rebellious 8-year-old, um, my dad was a huge Bears fan. And when I was 8, I was like, I'm not going to like what my dad likes. I'm going to like my own thing. So I'm like, I'm going to pick the team that's furthest away. And I didn't know a whole lot about geography at 8 years old, or I should be a Seahawks fan or a 49ers fan. But I picked the Dolphins. I like the colors. And again, another nerdy thing. One of my favorite video games of all time is Tecmo Super Bowl for the original Nintendo. And Dan Marino was so good on that game. I loved playing as the Dolphins, and it just kind of stuck. I'm also a Clippers fan for basketball. And I picked just so everyone knows, I picked the Clippers before they were good. I became a Clippers fan out of pure spite. There was no other reason but spite. When I first lived out in Los Angeles, I just moved back out here now, but I lived there 2006 to 2009, kind of in that area, and that was the last time where the Lakers were really good. Where they were the Lakers, and the Lakers ruined so many comedy shows for me. Because either the Lakers would lose and everyone in the bar would be just so angry and didn't want to listen to any of our nonsense, or the Lakers would win and everyone just wanted to drink and party and didn't want to listen to our nonsense. So out of pure spite, I was like, you know what? I'm a Clippers fan. I don't care if they suck. Screw the Lakers. I'm a Clippers fan. And then they got pretty good, so it kind of worked out for me. But
it kind of reminds me of the dumbest jokes that I put in my head and remember is like, it was a mom joke. Someone told your mom the Clippers were in town, so she thought she was going to get a haircut. so being
you can see, I want the Clippers to be back in town. I need one. I'm on that quarantine haircut, and I don't trust my girlfriend to cut my hair. So,
hey, what's it like though? Like I was a Buccaneers fan before they got good. What's it like though? Isn't it kind of aggravating though to be a Cubs fan and they win the World Series and now you have all these new Cubs fans?
For yes and no. At least with the Cubs, I feel the one thing the Cubs have for them, for better or worse, is a pretty loyal fan base. People definitely waded through it to get to it. For me, as far as bandwagon goes, it doesn't bother me that much, only because it's not my place to police how into something somebody is. Like, for me, if I'm going to be a fan of something, I go all out. I'm a nerd. I look at box scores. I'm looking at, all that stuff. That's just what I enjoy personally. Not everyone likes sports on that way. Some people just like to be in a fun party atmosphere, and that party atmosphere happens when people are winning. So, can it be a little annoying? Sure. But it also doesn't affect my fandom. It doesn't take away from what I feel about the team. So, whatever. Sports is just about people having an excuse to drink. That's like 75% of it. So, whatever. Have fun. Do it. I'm still going to watch the games the way I watch them.
So, what kind of a football player was Ryan?
I was an average one at best. So I went to Kankakee Valley High School, Northwest Indiana. I was an offensive lineman. I was one of the bigger kids on our team. We were pretty small. Like I was only 220 pounds, and I was one of the biggest kids. We're not exactly a football powerhouse by any means on high school, but for me it was fun. I enjoyed it. I worked hard once I kind of got it in my head that this was something I really wanted to put some time into. I knew I'm not athletic enough where I was ever going to play in college or anything like that. It just wasn't who I was. But I tried to have fun. Some people took it really seriously, and my kind of job on the team was to bring some levity to it. So I would always do things like, because obviously I was never going to like overpower anybody on the offensive line. So what I would do every single game, the very first play I was out there, I would walk up to the line and stick my hand out to the defensive guy in front of me and be like, "Hey, good luck out there today." It would weird him out so much that he would never hit me. Like there was only one guy I remember who actually still like kind of brought it the normal way, and that day sucked. But everybody else would take it easier on me because they didn't want to hurt the guy with disability. It's all you got to work smarter, not harder, Billy. All right, and that was the entirety of my football career. It was a lot of fun.
Who are some of your favorite comedians growing up?
Favorite comedians growing up. Um, so my I have some fondness for some people that are a little ridiculous, but it was kind of because my dad and I really didn't bond on a whole lot of things. My dad had some issues with alcohol and things like that, so he wasn't always the most pleasant human being to be around. But one of the really positive memories I always had was he would sometimes let me stay up late with him to watch some comedian on television because he really enjoyed stand-up comedy. So a lot of my more positive memories with him are sitting on the couch and watching some stuff that, I mean, I was probably too young to understand a lot of it, but just seeing how happy it made my dad kind of planted a little bit of that seed that like, oh, I might like this seems to be something that like makes people happy. Like you can kind of take even people who are sometimes at their worst, like my dad was, it would make him a normal, kind of pleasant human. So we used to sit up and watch a lot of Gallagher. My dad loved Gallagher, who, ridiculous now, but so I do have some affinity for some watermelon smashing. I still go. A lot of people probably from that time can still go to a grocery store, and every time you see watermelons, you picture smashing it with a sledgehammer. Like that's just how it is. Um, Dana Carvey, my dad loved Dana Carvey. There was that special that aired on Comedy Central about 1 billion times in the early '90s, before Comedy Central had a lot of stuff in the can at that point. Those are probably the two major ones I remember. I remember when I discovered Brian Regan. It was a big deal for me. Dave Chappelle, when I started getting to like high school, and that time was when he was starting to really blow up. Um, Gaffigan, I'm a big fan of Jim Gaffigan to this day.
A Hoosier.
Exactly, yeah, he's from the region as well. I think he grew up in the Chesterton area, and legitimately, Gaffigan was one of those people that kind of convinced me in the back of my head, like, oh, he's from the same area I am. If he can make it in comedy from here, why can't I? Like, because, Indiana isn't exactly the mecca of entertainment. You don't think of it that way. It's not where you think stars are going to be, grown and blossom. But seeing somebody from the same area as you make it big in something like that kind of gets you in your head like, oh, well, hell, I can do that too, right?
So your dad, you said, had some problems with alcohol. How do you stay away from that or use that to your advantage as your career grows?
For me, I find with a lot of people who might have grown up in a household that had issues with alcohol, you kind of go one or two ways. You either follow in their footsteps, or you sort of overcorrect and go the other way. I am definitely an overcorrect. So to this day, I'm 38 years old now. I don't know what the feeling of being drunk is. I've never experienced that. I've sipped things here and there just to taste it, or when someone's like, "Hey, check out this drink," and I'm okay, yeah, fine. I don't know what feeling buzzed is like. Because for me, like, it runs in my family. My dad obviously had it. My grandpa had it. It was just one of those things that, like, I know what my personality is and what my body will do, and I know if I started, I wouldn't stop. That can be tricky in comedy because a huge part of the sort of bonding, like for comedy, it's very important. The hang is very important. It's just going to even if you're not performing, it's going to the comedy clubs. It's being present, being around, hanging out. And a lot of that involves, because it's adults, and I don't judge anyone for it, because whatever. But it involves being at the bars and staying at the comedy clubs and drinking and hanging out. That's just not fun for me. I don't judge anyone that does it, But if you don't drink, you don't want to be around a lot of people who are drunk for several hours at a time. It's just not fun after a while. I got the reputation, and it was not necessarily negative, but one of the comedy club owners in Indianapolis used to call me the most boring comedian in Indianapolis because he was like, you're a great guy, you hang out, you're very nice to everyone, you have a good time, but the second the shows are over, you're out of there. And I'm like, well, yeah, because it's not fun for me. So it's been a little hard on that front sometimes because it does stunt you a little bit. If you're not hanging out, you don't get noticed as quickly because you're just not there. On the other front, though, I've not sabotaged myself in any way. Sometimes people get a little too far into that, and it can stunt their growth that way. Everything I've ever done on stage is with clear mind. So I know it helps me realize, okay, is this funny? Is this not funny? It's helped with my self-awareness a ton. And there's plenty of like-minded people with me. My road opener, Dave Yates, he's one of my best friends in the world. I've known him for 10 years. A very funny comic. He's sober. So he's been sober for like 9 years. So for me, he's someone great to take on the road with me when we have a road. It's been a while, but because for me, I know, hey, I have a good friend that I trust, and he's not going to want to do those type of things that I don't enjoy doing. So it's nice to have someone like that to kind of hang out with, and you don't have to like babysit or watch or be worried about. So we just play a lot of video games and watch a lot of sports and all that type of stuff. So it is possible to do this, but yeah, it can affect you for a while.
And you spent 4 years in Terre Haute, so that's impressive.
I spent more than 4 years in Terre Haute. That's I spent a good chunk of my 20s off and on in Terre Haute, both with graduating, and then for some reason I came back.
What?
Yeah, that's where I came after LA didn't work out for me the first time. I moved back to Terre Haute. I went back to school for a year thinking, like, I was in that, like, little stage, like, oh, it's never going to work. I have to get a real degree. My theater degree isn't going to ever. Like, half my student loan debt was that 1 year of college that I came back thinking that I had to get something practical.
And if you want to smell railroad tie stuff, just spend a summer in Terre Haute.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the funny thing is, from what people told me, it used to be worse. Like, when I was in college, people were like, oh, this is nothing compared to what it used to be when the paper processing mill or whatever it was going. I was like, this isn't the bad smell?
So what was the move like? Last time I chatted with myself to you, but we couldn't hear you. You were still in Indianapolis. What's the move been like? Do you enjoy California? Are you getting acclimated? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, right now, because the world is shut down for the most part, California is exactly the same as Indiana. It's basically it's just sunnier out the window that I have to look at when I go there. It's been a little weird. Like I moved here, moved in with my girlfriend, so that's been very good. It's hard being 2,000 miles apart, even without being in the middle of a pandemic or something like that. So that's been good. Decided we were going to do this move later in the year, probably the end of the year, but with everything kind of being shut down, I figured once things really get going, I'm not going to have this kind of time again. So I was like, screw it. It'll be scary, but let's just go ahead and I'll pack up a U-Haul now and we'll just go ahead and take care of this. For the most part, it's been fine. Like, obviously, I miss my family back home, but, with my job, I can do it from anywhere. I just have to be relatively close to an airport, and I'm good. And I'm looking forward to reacclimating to California. When I first lived here, I was not mature enough. I had literally gone from Terre Haute being the biggest place I'd ever lived straight to like the middle of California. And I just wasn't ready. Emotionally, I wasn't ready. Financially, I wasn't ready. Like, I just wasn't in the place for it. I'm a lot better now. So I'm looking forward to when those things exist again, really getting to enjoy what California has to offer. I love Indiana. I love the Midwest. In a perfect world, I would have stayed there forever. But in my business, you kind of have to sometimes be where the action is. And as much as I love Indiana, you're probably not going to get discovered by any, studio heads from Sony or anything like that. There, it's just how it is.
And so have you gotten out and about to see like the Hollywood Walk of Fame, or have you? I guess you probably did that last time you were there, though. Before
Oh,
you
I
went
am
back out.
so sick of the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So all the live shows for AGT are done at the Dolby Theater, which is right in the middle of the Walk of Fame. So you go out of that theater, you're pretty much right there on it. So I'm so sick of almost running into people who wanted to take pictures of like Michael Jackson's star. Like no one in that area has any spatial awareness whatsoever. They're just so excited to see names they recognize. I was almost accidentally intimate with a lot of people who just stop right in front of you suddenly, and you're just like, "Whoa, okay, that's what's happening now." Yeah, if I ever never see the Walk of Fame again, I will be a happy man.
And if I'm not mistaken, don't you have to pay to get your star on the Walk of Fame?
Yep,
And
yep.
then
So
and
so
then there's
so
a
you,
then there's a yearly fee to keep up maintenance.
yep, yeah. You pay that, you do it yourself. I mean, I don't know what there's some kind of qualification. You have to have done something in like you couldn't be like somebody who starred in a couple of community theater productions in Terre Haute and get something that there's some standard that they look at. But yeah, you basically, from what I understand, you pay for your own, and as long as you pay for the upkeep, you can you can be a star.
We know all about it, but just give us kind of a little condensed version of what AGT meant to you.
Oh, it 100% changed my life. It was um I I can't imagine what it's like for people this season with everything being so weird. I hope they get the same boost and the same experience that I did out of it. Um, because like it literally changed my life. Before I got AGT, I had been doing comedy for 12 years and making not a whole lot of traction. Like having a disability like I do, it was really hard to kind of get the ball rolling because I was always good. If people let me do shows, I was going to do a really good job. I'm a talented guy, but it was just so hard to get a lot of like bookers to take a chance on something like this because it's so different. It's unique. Nobody looks like this. Nobody was doing this. Um, and I'm glad I didn't quit. I almost quit comedy about a year before that. I'd sort of made the decision. I was working a pretty decent job in Indianapolis. I had benefits, chances to move up. Like things were fine. And I kind of made a decision. I was like, either I'm just going to kind of stop. I'm going to make comedy a hobby and kind of focus on this. 'Cause I was 36 at the time. Like it's cool being a starving artist for a while. But if you're in your 30s and you still have to have three roommates and you're still, sleeping in your car to get to these gigs that make $200, like your brain, it's hard for your brain not to go, did I screw up? Is it time to settle down and do something else? But I made the decision the other way. I was like, all right, I'm gonna quit this job. I'm gonna tackle comedy as hard as I can. At least give it that one final push. Because then if it doesn't work, at least I can say it wasn't because I was on the fence, because I was, floundering a little bit. And luckily, within about 6 months, AGT basically, I had a video that went viral that summer, and they saw it and loved it. And I got to audition for the judges. And really, all you need sometimes is just that one person to give you a chance. And for me, that one person is AGT. They, as much as like, I think maybe eventually I could have gotten something like a Comedy Central spot or maybe, Corden or something like that, which would be great. But AGT was perfect for me because not only do they let you show your talent and be good at what you do, you also get to tell your story. And for me, I thought that was very important to be able to really connect with people. Because if all AGT wanted was somebody that can be funny for 2 minutes, there's thousands of comics that can do that. There's not thousands of comics that can kind of connect with people. And for me, just having that chance, it has completely changed my life. It's when that audition aired, like it's weird because I know the exact 7 minutes that my life changed. It's a very surreal feeling because not everybody gets to experience that.
Tell us, last time that I tried to interview,
Sure.
you told a great story about Simon Cowell and him kind of maybe interchanging some words which he thought he hurt your feelings with.
Oh yes. Yeah, it is one of my favorite stories. And it's the one I like to tell about Simon because, some of it might be justified, some of it's not. But Simon has this reputation for being a dick, for lack of a better word. Like, he has this reputation for being just mean for the sake of it. And I never saw that. I never saw, from what I know of Simon, I think he's somebody that he's not always right, but he says what he thinks is true, whether it's nice or not. Because I can tell you now, Simon doesn't know anything about stand-up comedy. He just doesn't. But so if he gives an opinion, it might not be accurate because he doesn't know how the process works. But he's just going to tell it like it is. But I always got along with Simon really well. We had the great moment, and this is how we really solidified what our relationship was. It was during the quarterfinals, and after I got voted through, he kind of made a little unintentional gaffe where he said, "It's all in your hands now." And I basically got to roast him a little bit on television. I go, "Oh, you want to try that again? It's in my what now?" And he kind of got embarrassed and pushed through. But so for me, I wasn't offended. There wasn't anything that was mean-spirited about it. It was me kind of, the second he said it, I went, oh, this is great. This is going to be a moment. I can do something. Because that was my strategy on AGT is like anytime I had that microphone in front of me, anytime I knew that camera was on me, I could do something to make it memorable. So that had nothing to do with my set. It was just like, oh, here's a moment I can capitalize on. Awesome. But right after we went off the air, because I was near the end of that episode, after every one of those live shows, the judges will come on stage after they go off the air and talk to the contestants a little bit, and then we all take a big group photo and things like that. But Simon came right up to me, and he gave me a big hug, and he's like, "I am so sorry. I hope you weren't offended. I hope you know what I meant. I hope you weren't offended by that." And I was like, offended? Are you kidding me? That was awesome. I got to have this great moment on live television. Say more dumb shit next week. Let's just make this one thing. And he had a big laugh. So for me, I got along with him great. I have the whole AGT experience. It's unique and it's different, but I have zero regrets about anything. I would do it all over again. I miss everyone there. It goes by really fast, just like a lot of things in life that are really enjoyable. It's over kind of before you know it. But I had a wonderful time, and I can't thank everyone from that show enough for what they did for me.
Ryan, a lot of entertainers, performers, comedians, on social media, won't respond or, it's all about them. But what's really interesting with your social media is you'll respond and you'll interact with your fans.
I do my best. Yeah, I mean, obviously, as things grow, it's hard to get to everybody. It's just, there's not enough time in the day, and that's just like the unfortunate truth about it. But for me, I appreciate everyone, like legitimately, because, I had 12 years of comedy where no one really cared. Like where you're kind of beating your head against the wall, just hoping someone notices you. And the small fan base I had, they're very loyal, and they're still people I talk to today. Because at that point, you can kind of become friends with everybody. There's not enough fans to not do it, and it's this cool novelty. And for me, though, just kind of as things started blowing up, the way I've always looked at this type of thing, no one has to like you. No one. Just because I went on that TV show, it doesn't mean you have to be a fan. It doesn't mean you have to follow me on Instagram. It doesn't mean you have to buy a ticket or anything like that. So the fact that people want to and are excited to do so, the least I can do is say hi if someone says hi to me, because it's cool. Like I don't look at myself this way because I'm just a kid who grew up in a trailer park in a small town in Indiana who worked hard and got lucky. Like that. That's basically who I am, and I know for some people like AGT is super important to them. It's like it's their thing, and getting to meet or take a picture with somebody they saw on that show might be the coolest thing they've done in the last decade. Like it's a big deal to them. And again, I don't see myself that way, but I know what it was like to get to meet people that I saw on television and appreciated what they did. So for me, if the hardest thing I have to do is take a picture or respond to a DM and say thank you, I will gladly do that. Because again, no one has to care. No one has to like anything that I do, and this could all go away at any time. So, I definitely appreciate it. And I don't even understand, like, as long as people are respectful, like I don't want anyone interrupting. Like my girlfriend and I joke that like one day, because I get stopped a lot. AGT is a very approachable show. People think they know you, so they approach you like they know you. So my girlfriend and I joke that like one day I'm gonna be trying to like propose to her, and somebody's gonna be like, "Hey, I'm gonna let you finish what you're doing. You mind if I get a selfie real fast?" And then like ask my girlfriend to take the picture. But yeah, for me it's great. It's been such a cool, humbling experience, and even selfishly, like I don't understand why performers don't embrace that. Like again, I understand if people are interrupting time with your kids or whatever like that, then yeah. But like even selfishly, even if I didn't care about any of these people, taking that 20 seconds to just say hi and be a nice guy and take a picture means they're probably going to buy tickets to see you forever. They're going to buy merchandise. So it's literally win-win. Even if you don't care, you're going to get their like, I never understood it. Anytime anyone's ever been a dick to me, I'm like, well, fine. I just won't pay money for you anymore. Sorry.
So, Ryan, where can people follow you? And I love your logo behind you there, and I'm assuming that's you can go to cripplethreat.com if I'm not mistaken. But
yes,
let everybody know where they can follow you and find out what Ryan's up to.
Sure. So right now I'm not up to a ton, like a lot of people. But cripplethreat.com is my website. It has my calendar up there for. In theory, I'm booked out for the next several months, but we kind of know how that is right now. So take all that with a grain of salt. Obviously, I'm excited to get back to work, but I also want everyone to be safe and careful. That's my biggest priority. So cripplethreat.com. All my social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it's at cripplethreat8. So that's the number 8 because there was 7 before me, clearly. Awesome. But I've risen to power, so I'm now the toughest one. So you can find me on there. Like you said, I'm very interactive. If you leave a comment, you send a DM. I try to get to as many as I can. I definitely appreciate everybody. So come say hi. Club Nub's a pretty cool fan base. There, everyone is generally pretty supportive. I try to push a lot of positivity. Don't want any negativity on there. It's just not, there's enough of that in my normal life I don't want to deal with on there. So come have a good time. Working on some other projects that hopefully I can announce soon. Working on my own podcast, working on some video stuff. Hopefully we'll see that soon when you do it right. So yeah, come say hi. I'm, like I said, very interactive. So let's have some fun.
Ryan, thank you so much for doing this. Not once, but twice. I appreciate it.
Actually, if it doesn't work this time, you only get like 3 or 4 more chances, all right? So just know you're on a fine line right now.
I appreciate it so much. Everyone will enjoy this. Take care.
Thanks, buddy. See you later.